Welcome to Community Matters on ThinkTech Hawaii. I'm your host, Jay Fidell. Today we'll talk about the opera. Lots going on at Hawaii Opera Theater. Backstage with General Director Andrew Morgan. Our guest for the show is, of course, Andrew Morgan of Hawaii Opera Theater.
Ironically, it's me.
What a surprise.
Yeah, right.
Welcome to the show, Andrew. Nice
Thanks,
to have
Jay.
you here.
It's always a pleasure being with you.
So we need to support the arts in our community, and that includes staying current and participating on what is happening at the Hawaii Opera Theater. So Andrew can help us get current on those things, get current on the events, the programs, and the future of Hawaii Opera Theater. So I guess my first question is, last time we spoke about Stuck Elevator, that was fabulous production. We talked about federal funding, and I wonder whether the federal funding for that program came through, whether it didn't, what it looks like in the future, given the Trump administration's view of the arts.
Thanks, Jay. I appreciate that question. So the good news is we got our federal funding for Stuck Elevator. That came through by the skin of its teeth, I'm sure. I know a lot of other arts companies, opera companies, all arts have seen contracts get rescinded by the National Endowment for the Arts thanks to this administration, but we fortunately were not among that. However, we had applied last July for another round of funding for an opera we're doing this coming season, our Hawaiian Opera Commission, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little later. And that is just dead in the water. I mean, unfortunately, they've put a stake in the NEA's heart and the NEH's heart and twisted it around. It is such a sad state of affairs because this country already spent fractions of pennies on the dollar on the arts, and to see this minimal support yanked away. And I think we will see it too in other ways. For instance, a lot of the funding that about a half of maybe 40% of the National Endowment for the Arts budget goes directly to states for re-granting purposes. And so Hawaii, the State Foundation on Culture and the Arts, is likely to be impacted by the NEA cuts. So only time will tell. We do get funding through the State Foundation on the Culture of the Arts for our residency program. So it could potentially impact our ability to be out in the schools, bringing opera to these amazing kids.
Well, Trump is kind of taking over the arts, to wit the Kennedy Center in Washington.
Yeah.
Last time he did something there, they booed him, which is appropriate. Anyway, so you talked about a commission,
Yes.
a commission for the development, the writing, the composing.
We've taken it upon ourselves to create a brand new opera, which a lot of other companies have done. Hawaii Opera Theater has never done it in its 3-year history. And so it's really exciting. And I'm really pleased that the first opera we're doing is a Hawaiian opera. The title is Kamalehua, the Sheltering Tree. Kamalehua is the middle name of Timoteo Ha'alilio, who's a real historical character that was kind of lost to history, actually. He was a long childhood friend of Kamehameha III, Keoli, became a trusted advisor of his, and was sent on a mission with William Richards, speaking of missionaries, sent on a mission to secure recognition of Hawaii as a sovereign nation. And they were successful, but Timoteo unfortunately passed away on the ship back. And so that's the opera is going to tell that story of this mission, their efforts to secure recognition from the United States, from London, from Paris, Belgium. And again, they were successful, although not a lot of written stuff, but and of course it all came crashing down later, but that's not the opera. That's not this opera.
Well, and who's going to star in that? I think I know the answer.
You do know the answer. It's Quinn Kelsey, our own favorite Hawaiian star baritone, who has launched this international career that's just so spectacular. He's going all over the place, performing at the Met multiple times this season, lyric opera, places in Europe, Japan. He just got back from Japan not too long ago. And so very excited to have him. We've also secured a really wonderful Hawaiian soprano that we didn't really know about before, but she actually just had her Met debut in Aina Damar, Tasha Kuntz. And so she will be playing Timoteo's wife, Hannah. It's going to be a great cast. So the composer and the librettist are both Hawaiian. Herb Mahalona is the composer. He lives on the Big Island. He teaches at Kamehameha Schools, Big Island. And the librettist is Victoria Nalani Knubel, who is a quite well-known Hawaiian Samoan playwright, author. And so we've just it. I could tell I'm kind of bouncing. I'm really excited about this project. I think it's going to be fantastic.
I'm reminded of the poo-poo dinner at the Mission House Museum, the cemetery, Oahu Cemetery. It
Mhm.
happens every year, and um, they celebrate, commemorate, make a little play about various decedents who are buried in the cemetery, and it's very interesting because it's all historical, and they
Sure.
have research. They research everything right down to the last detail. And the opera you describe requires that kind of research.
Oh
So
yeah.
whoever writes it, and I would like to know who is writing it, whoever conceives of the ideas, and for that matter, the arias, has to be very akamai, not to use a Hawaiian word, of course, very akamai about Hawaiian history, right down to the last detail. How are you handling that?
Yeah, so the librettist Victoria Knubel is certainly very knowledgeable of Hawaiian history, but she also had an amazing resource in Kawe Se Dudois, who is a historian, a Hawaiian historian, who actually the one that rediscovered Timateo. She was doing research about sovereignty issues throughout the years, and this name kept popping up. Timateo Ha'alilio. And so she started, who is this person? And so she started digging in. His name is in Kaihaua Church, but it's misspelled. They claim to have his remains there, but we're actually think that it's listed that they're there, but we're actually thinking it's somewhere else. Or Kawi is the it's quite a fascinating history how this all came to be. But she was a huge resource. Kawi was, and she was brought to our attention by the director and choreographer of this opera, Patrick Pakuakane. Who you may know of. He's a kumuhulu that I've known for many years through San Francisco in his hula halau there. And he was the one that is friends with Cowie and brought her to the table to start the process of this amazing journey that we've been through. It's been 3 years in the making for this opera. Last August, we had a workshop where we had artists come in, including Quinn Kelsey, to sing his role. The conductor, Lance Inouye, who's also from Hawaii, and the composer, librettist, Patrick came as well, and we had a week of workshopping the piece and finally a run through at the end of the week, and just to give feedback to the composer and librettist. Mostly we've mostly the feedback was it needs to be cut. It's too long, but 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 it was really it's some of the most gorgeous music, and we had some leaders in the community, including Cowie, but also Puakea Nogelmeyer, who's also quite well known in the Hawaiian community, come in. They were in tears listening to this piece, telling this story, and it's mostly in Hawaiian. The translation, um, yeah, it just. I can't be more pleased that we're able to bring this piece to.
So, is there any dance in the opera?
Yes, there is, and that was one of the things that I met Herb very so that's the composer, Herb Mahalona. I met him very soon after I got here in 2019, maybe that fall, and started talking about because I wanted to commission do something that was Hawaiian of this place. And he'd written several operas, has written even more since I met him, for his school, Kamehameha School, so high school age, but they're 100% Hawaiian, telling histories, ancient histories of Hawaiian people, and he's taken them to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival a couple times. I mean, just really powerful pieces. And as we're talking, and he's like, "What would you like in a Hawaiian opera?" And I said, "Well, I'd like hula, and I'd like chant, and I'd like traditional tropes of opera." And he's like, and he just smiled at me. He's like, "Well, that's what I do," and that's when he started introducing me to his music, and it's just really very tuneful, soulful. It just he's a beautiful composer, and I'm surprised. I'm sad that he's not known worldwide, but hopefully this will help.
Thinking about Stuck Elevator, I'm stuck on Stuck Elevator. It was designed and written in Nashville, but it had an international, aura about it. And lo and behold, it gets produced here. You
Yeah,
guys produced it, and that was a terrific move. And so you have an opera produced in one place and then playing in another place, and it's a brand new opera about issues that are relevant to current events,
Yeah.
immigration, for example. So two questions come out of that here. It seems to me that this opera has legs beyond Hawaii. People are going to be interested. They're not always interested in Hawaiian issues. I remember, for example, the Broadway play Allegiance, which was designed and developed here and in San Diego, and then ultimately played on Broadway for 6 months until it closed. So you don't know whether people overseas, rather on the mainland, are going to like it as much as we like it.
Sure.
But what do you think about the prospects of that? What do you think about people elsewhere, performing this opera?
Well, I'm hopeful that other opera companies will pick this up because it's not just a piece about Hawaii. It's a piece. It's very human story, and really the themes are bravery, sacrifice, love, bonding, brotherhood, brothership, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Brotherhood, and allegiance to king and country and God. I mean, Timoteo was quite religious and was baptized in the Christian faith on the ship before he passed away by William Richards. And so there's a lot of themes there that pull this out, but it's also, it's a bigger than life story, which is what opera tells so well.
I can hardly wait. When is it going to play, Andrew?
So it debuts in May of 2026, May 1, 3, and 5. We're going to do 3 performances at the Blaisdell Concert Hall.
Oh, I think it's going to be very, very popular. By the way, does it include anything about the overthrow? Because that's it's political, although it's kind of getting old. But the fact is, a lot of people think about it all day long. Is
Yeah.
there anything in there about the tension between the monarchy and those who overthrew the monarchy?
Yes, because actually a different overthrow occurred while Timoteo and William Richards were on their mission. The British Admiral Paulette uh, over overthrew Kauikeoli at arms, forced him to abdicate while this mission was happening. The U.S. warships came in and restored the monarchy that time. But yes, that is included. The Paulette affair is known as.
Oh, it'll be very educational, I'm sure,
Yeah.
and I'm delighted, and I'll be there for sure. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is how did Carmen go? Carmen's one of my favorites. Carmen is the C in ABC, the
It
ABC
is.
operas.
Yes, it is. Married to Bohème and Carmen. Well, we did Bohème a year and a half ago, so yeah, we're getting there. I'm not bringing Aida back anytime soon, though. I love that opera, but anyway, Carmen was fantastic. And we did 2 performances, Friday and Sunday. The Friday was pretty darn full, like 80%, and Sunday was sold out, which we haven't done as a company in probably 15 years, which shows that there is an appetite for opera. But it also tells me that Blaisdell Concert Hall is really where people want to go to see opera. So having that venue closed for a year plus was difficult on us. But the cast was great. Alice Chung, who we absolutely adore here, she was our Carmen. She debuted here in 2022 in our Butterfly at Suzuki, and then she was back in American Dream, our story about Japanese incarceration camp as Mama, and now with Carmen. And that's 3 role debuts for her with this company, which just tells you how much we love her and appreciate her artistry. Just an amazing tenor. Wang Mi Choi was the Don Jose. He, Jamie Offenbach, our artistic director, and I saw him in Minnesota performing Don Jose, and we thought, oh my God, this is an amazing voice. And really, my one of my goals with this company is to spotlight the amazing Asian artists and Pacific Islander artists that are out there, um, just doing great work, bringing them here. He was even better for us. I was just so bowled over by this amazing young tenor. The whole cast was great. It was directed by Richard Gammon, who also did American Dream for us, and conducted by Ben McKenna, who's done several works for us, including Madame a Butterfly and Elixir of Love, the Hawaiian set Elixir of Love that we did a couple years back. Um, we did it in a semi-staged version, so the orchestra was on the stage and the artists were in front, with set pieces and all of that, and fully staged, fully costumed. And I have to tell you, I was shocked. I was kind of going into this going, "Oh, people are gonna hate this, they're gonna yell at me, because there's no big sets and all." And we got a couple of not complaint even, just comments, but I can't tell you how many people came up to me after the show saying to me, "I like this better." That that the artists were so much closer to the audience. There wasn't the trappings, of a big set, and it pared it down to what is really an amazing drama told with amazing music and sung by amazing singers. And the orchestration that he does, that Bizet created for this is one of the best orchestrated operas I think I'm aware of outside of maybe Verdi and Wagner, but just really brilliant orchestration that you get to hear better than ever with the orchestra right there on stage and not buried in the pit.
A word about Jamie.
Yeah,
Jamie is magnetic.
he is.
He's got a charisma. When he's on stage, he's amazing. You can't take your eyes off him. And
Yeah,
his voice is so strong and his moves are so, attracting.
yeah,
I must say that every time you can get him to actually get on stage,
yeah.
Andrew, you should do that because
Unfortunately, he's retired from that part of his career, but I am thrilled to be able to engage him in the way that he is, which is just he is such a good ear for singers, and so he's out there scouting. And the good thing is he and I have a similar like and dislike of singers, and so the singers. I know that when he casts an opera like he did with Carmen, that I'm going to love everybody in it, and I certainly did with Carmen.
yeah, well, it's all in the recruiting, isn't it? You
It
build an
is.
organization, especially a group of opera singers and all the people around the opera that have to be involved. It's all a matter of recruiting the best talent you can get your hands on.
Well, and then building relationships with them too. Things like bringing Alice back several times. It's because we believe in her as an artist and want to see her grow. So we're giving her those opportunities to learn new rep, to try out new things with us. In fact, we're commissioning another opera, which I could tell you about. That's in the following year, and she's one of the stars in that as well. And so world debut, world premiere for her. It's called T. It's based on a play by the same name by Valina Hasu Houston, who's also serving as the librettist. 1984 play. It's played all over the world, including here in Hawaii many years ago. And it's about five Japanese war brides, 1968 Kansas. One of the women, and they get together as a community, and they have tea. They are social with each other. And one of the women has committed suicide after killing her abusive husband. And so in the play, the four women have come to her house to clean and talk and commiserate, be together as a community. And she has a presence as a ghost in the play and will be in the opera. And so there's just a remarkable story, and the way the librettist, the playwright, creates these five distinct characters. They all married for different reasons. They all adapted or did not adapt to American culture. Just the nuances between the five very distinctly etched characters. And I can't wait to hear the music, which we'll be hearing in August. Again, another workshop week in August here with the composer and librettist. But another exciting project, and that's slated for February 2027. But again, with Alice, we're also bringing back from Butterfly our Butterfly Chocha-san, Karen Charlie will be in as well, and several others that we've been working with these last few years. So
So, what's the status of this season? Is it over? And what about next season?
yeah,
What do you have in mind?
Yeah, Carmen was our final season of the final production of the 24-25 season. And so now we are in overdrive in planning and making final touches to the 25-26 season, which has been announced. So the fall, instead of a main stage production, we're actually going to do a festival in our Studio 101 space, our cabaret space. Three different shows. Well, four if you include our annual holiday show in December. And two of those will include chamber operas. One is we're bringing back Bon Appetit, the opera about Julia Childs, and which we did during our digital season, where Sarah Lambert Connolly will be reprising that role. But this is the brainchild of Jamie Offenbach, is everything is Studio 101 is, calling it A Night of a Thousand Julias. So we'll have a bunch of people, I think, dressed up as Julia Child, but only Jamie will know for sure what's going to happen there. But then in February, our main stage, we're back at the Blaisdell for one whole season. I'm saying one, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. We're finally presenting the opera that I'm directing, Riot Girl on Mars, which is an English adaptation of Rossini's Italian Girl in Algiers. It's a piece that I directed probably 20 plus years ago for Berkeley Opera, which doesn't even exist now. It's called West Edge Opera. And it is just hysterical. It is absolutely every single note that Rossini wrote, and the story is the same, but it's set on Mars. Instead of Mustafa, the king of Algiers, you have the king of Mars and the queen of Mars. And the lead mezzo is, who crash lands on Mars, of course, and gets captured, is a riot girl, which is actually a movement of the riot movement. So
Andrew, you're at the cutting edge. You have so many operas that are brand new and that deal with new issues and new ideas and new messaging. But on the one hand, with the traditional operas, the ABC Plus operas, everybody knows what that is, and
yeah,
they're drawn by their existing knowledge of what that opera is talking about. The new ones, they don't know. So this puts a challenge on you, doesn't it, to inform the public about Mars and what and and the comparison of Algiers and Mars. You
yeah,
have to
right.
teach people. You have to get them interested. No.
It definitely involves more education, more sharing of information. But again, Riot Girl on Mars is still Italian Girl in Algiers. It's a different setting. And the way I think about it is, when Rossini wrote this, Algiers was an exotic place. It's not so much anymore. So why not Mars, which is a very exotic place. I also think, there's some issues with some of these rescue operas. Abduction from the Seraglio and right, Italian Girl in Algiers are two examples of little cultural appropriation and some not great representation of peoples in these places, including Muslim faith, kind of mocking that. And so, how do you do these pieces, which are so wonderful, such great characters, such great music? How do you do them without having that element to it? And so, this is one way in an adaptation that removes it, as I jokingly. I've been thinking, it's like in my current remarks of saying, is like, I apologize if there's any Martians in the audience tonight. We didn't mean to offend. Um, but again, the story is exactly the same. This woman from a different culture comes in and disrupts everything by telling them, well, this is how we do it back where I live. And again, the king wants to have an Earthling woman because he's been watching 1950s June Cleaver sort of aspects of American Housewife. Well, the same thing was true in Mustafa in the original. He would love to have an Italian wife because they're so beautiful and all these things, and it just comes together in a different but same way.
Sounds hysterical.
It
Sounds
is very
really, really something that you have to see. And by the way, let me offer this thought. As we get closer to the openings of these operas in your seasons to come, I'm available. We can sit and talk about these operas in greater detail and what people should expect and why it would be, why it would be a good experience to go.
I will definitely take you up on that. You're such a friend of the opera, and we really appreciate that relationship, Jay.
It's a lifelong thing for me.
Yeah.
I get emotionally involved in every opera that I attend. So let me go to something you mentioned, and that is Blaisdell. What's the situation? You have it for 1 year, then it turns into a glass slipper.
Something like that, yes. Unfortunately, they announced a couple months ago that they're closing it again for a year. It was going to be fall of 2026 that it was closed, and now it's January 2027. So we have dates for October of 2026 to do another new opera we're doing, an opera version of The Shining. It's not one that we've commissioned. Minnesota Opera did it some years ago, but we've done a co-production, a new production for it. Just a great piece, and so that's going to be Halloween weekend, which I think can't be more better. It can't be a better date than Halloween weekend for Stephen King's The Shining. But then we're out of house again for all of 2027. And if the 12 months ends up being as long as the 12 months last time, that means our entire 27-28 season will be out of house, which will be I'm not going to pull any punches. It's going to be a financial disaster for the company. We being in other places is so much more expensive for us, and our traditional audiences just don't want to go to those places. Mon Lee High School is a beautiful little theater, 700-seat theater, but no one seemed to know where it was. We're like, it's just down the street, free parking and everything. But and then we used the arena twice now. We did Stuck Elevator there, and so we will probably mount T in a similar configuration that we did with Stuck Elevator, and then we'll use the thinking right now is a semi-state production of Tosca out at the Waikiki Shell. In April or May of 27. But we haven't even begun to think about what to do with a whole year out in 27, 28 again. Um, but again, the arena and the shell, there's nothing there. If we're doing theatrical lights, we have to rent them, rent rigging to put them on. It takes extra tech time. It's like $100,000 more than being at the Blaisdell Concert Hall for any time we're at somewhere else.
Well, there must be innovations that you can find that would soften that blow. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I'm thinking of the background, the high-tech background in Stuck Elevator.
yeah.
That was really something. Although it cost a lot of money, it was a lot easier than mounting, all the stage apparatus.
Oh yeah, and we will do something like that again, and if and when we go back to the arena, and the same thing with the Waikiki Shell, which actually was a beautiful experience for us doing Lava Wham out there. It just didn't sell as well as we'd hoped it had.
Mm. Well, okay. I wanted to talk about the audience. So right now we're in a situation post-COVID, I guess you'd say. COVID never helped anybody, didn't help the economy of the state.
No,
But here we are in another stressful time with the Trump administration cutting this and cutting that. And these tariffs will have an effect on the state economy.
yeah.
They'll probably have an effect on whether people have disposable income, and they'll have an effect on tourism. How do you see that as affecting the fortunes of the opera going forward?
Certainly, the loss of revenue to the state will impact our activities, because we do get regular support from the city and county for our education programs. We have not yet been successful in securing state funding through the state GIA. That is a very political process, unfortunately, here, and very limited. This year, this current round of GIA from the state, only 5 arts organizations were included in what they awarded. Um, and that's disappointing that the state won't support the arts in a more robust way. Um, Certainly the tourism, we don't get a lot of audience from tourism, although I am hoping that will not be that we will have a lot of tourists coming to see Kamalahua, the Sheltering Tree, our Hawaiian opera. But it's going to impact everything. There's a trickle down, right, of loss of income, loss of revenue for the states. Um, Supplies for building sets, creating productions will be more expensive with tariffs. Shipping will be more expensive if we're renting sets from other places and bringing them here. There's a lot of things that will impact. And bad economy it means people don't have the disposable income to buy tickets, to make donations,
Mm.
to support the arts, or anything else really. It'll impact restaurants too. It's I'm worried about a recession. I'll be honest. So we were.
We should all be worried about a recession because it's not just the arts; it's everything. It's
Oh yeah,
quality of life in every direction.
yeah.
So, but you talk about raising funds and having greater expenses and all that. Let's talk about the opera ball.
Mhm.
How well did you do on the opera ball, and what did you learn?
We did great. The Opera Ball table sales were a little sluggish this year, but donations were huge, and we did a fund to need that brought in more than we've ever done, like $100,000 in 20 minutes, which was just amazing to see that happen. And so we netted a quite good amount, over $300,000 net, in support of our program. It's our largest fundraising source of any individual source. Um, and so that is something we will continue doing. Um, and but overall fundraising went well this year. We did really quite well the last year that we just finished the season. We did quite well with foundations, and individual support. Corporations still lagging here, although we've had some success. And that's never been the 11 years I was at San Francisco Opera, another arts organization I've been with. Corporate support for the arts has never been robust. um, they like sports where they get to see 30,000 people in 2 hours, uh, but I'm hopeful that our donors will stick with us. They have so far through COVID. Even we've been quite successful with maintaining that revenue source. But ticket sales, we're in a rebuilding mode right now for ticket sales.
You know the story of Edward R. Murrow and the CBS back when, and the play with George Clooney,
Mhm.
which is on Broadway now and really doing very well,
Yeah,
was live last Saturday, live to the world on CNN. That was quite remarkable. I mean, even when somebody flubbed the line, you had the distinct impression that it was really live. This was not
yeah,
recorded. It was not edited live.
yeah.
I wonder if the opera could ever do that.
You know, the infrastructure for that is expensive. Getting negotiating with the union, particularly because we engage the orchestra through the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra, and we do not have our own media agreement, so that we'd have to. It's a very expensive proposition, I would think, for us. Probably cost prohibitive. But again, we all have to be innovating in ways to how to reach new audiences. um, nothing can be just a no, or we've done that, we did work last time, well, let's try it again in different ways.
A great state deserves great art, and great art deserves a great state. And there's a and by the way, that applies to the country too.
Yeah,
Although some people don't recognize it. We know.
yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to do a little speed dating with you, Andrew. Are you
Okay,
ready?
sure.
Okay. Here are my topics, and you can handle them any way you want. Give me some comments on what you're doing in these various things. Okay. Touring shows, master classes, education programs, sponsorship and volunteering opportunities, and the in-house resale shop. You want me to go one by one? Let's start with
You
touring
should, yeah,
shows.
yeah. A lot of people don't know this, but we actually have an education touring arm that goes to the whole takes our programming to the whole state every single year. Not all the islands all years, but we alternate things. We reach over 15,000 keiki through that, and it's a specifically adapted opera. This last year it was I want to say it was the Magic Flute, but I think that was the year before. Let's just go. So it was the Magic Flute. Yes, it was the Magic Flute. And it 40 minutes in English with audience participation and over 80 shows across Oahu, Maui, and the Big Island. This coming year, the touring is going to be a Hawaiian themed opera, and I can't think of the name of it, but our education director Eric Haynes will. And I want to say that I won't say the name because I don't know what it is. But that's a really important aspect of our programming is our residency programs. I would love to take main stage stuff on tour like the company has done in the past. We had planned on doing that with An American Dream to take it to the Big Island. I had a sponsor lined up and everything, but then Kahilu Theater pretty much shut down at that point, having some financial stress. So we canceled that, but I am looking for other opportunities. To be honest with you, I'd love to bring back Stuck Elevator, and that would be a wonderful one to tour to neighboring islands because it's small. Um, so that's touring. What else? Master classes.
Master classes.
Yeah.
I always found that that would be like a graduate degree in doing opera. What is it like? Who attends? And how do you handle it?
Yeah, so we also have an adult and youth training program called the Orvis program. It's supported by the May Z. Orvis Foundation, Arthur and Orvis Foundation, and the it's called, we have an adult program that's called the Orvis Opera Studio and a high school program, Orvis Young Singers. And those are year-round programs, and they get training through visiting artists, sometimes special artists. Like we just had conductor Mark Morash out here for a couple weeks, and he culminated with a public recital out at Sacred Hearts. And so we do things like that all year round. Not every single month, but on occasion. And it's really important to have these outside voices listening to singers that live right here. It's not just us saying things to them, it's other people saying things to them. And they get training in language arts and stage combat and recital presentation, acting, a lot of different things that we're providing free of charge, by the way. These are all free programs for the people that participate.
That's great to develop local talent. Really important. Who knows how many Quinn Kelseys are in the crowd? Who knows?
And Quinn and his sister Blythe both went through those programs, the Orvis
Oh,
program.
is that right?
Yeah. And so did Leslie Goldman, who was in a lot of our shows, and Sarah Lambert Connolly. So there's and Taka Komagata, Robert Fung, both of those came through our program. So and they're I mean, we're bringing them back thankfully, but they're also making a living out there on the mainland too.
Leslie Goldman, she was one of my favorite at the Studio 101 program
Oh
I
my
was at.
God. She is such a ham, and I mean that in the kindest and most affectionate way. She knows how to wrap an audience around her little finger, and just a great voice and a great comedian, a great actress, great stage presence. There's a lot of greats there. Auntie Pretty, as she's known here.
She connects with people. She certainly
She really
connected with
does.
me.
She really does.
So you mentioned education. Is there any other aspect of the education program we should discuss?
Yeah, so couple things. We have our residency program, which is a semester, a whole year, with a teaching artist going into the school, working with a class or grade level. Usually it's a grade level at most of these schools. And they write an opera together that the kids pick out the theme of the opera. They write the libretto. Eric Shank, who's on our staff, a pianist and wonderful musician, goes back and sets it to arias and choruses from Mozart operas, Verdi operas, Wagner operas, and then they teach it to the kids, and then the kids build sets and costumes, and they present it for the whole school. So that's one of our most in-depth programs, and we have about 5 or 6 schools that we're able to do each year. Last year we did 7, which was kind of taxing on our staff, but they're amazing programs, and to watch these kids. Last year, I went to Waikele Elementary School, which is one of our longest partners in this program, and it was the first graders performing. And oh my goodness, so adorable! And they sing really well, loudly, and in tune, and all of those things. Then we also have a program called Opera for Everyone, which is we open up the final dress rehearsal for all our program, all our main stage operas for keiki, and it's $7 ticket, and they get to see the full shebang like the adults do on a Friday or Saturday, Sunday, and it's a great to see these kids come in. They read the programs more than the adults do, I have to say, cover to cover. They treat it like it's a rock concert. They dress up. And it's a great experience watching mostly high school and college, but we get some middle school and even younger kids to these Opera for Everyone performances. But it's so wonderful to see 1,000 kids going to see Carmen. We had like not quite tight, like 800 kids that went to see
Well,
Carmen.
and lectures on the lanai.
Yeah, those
It's
take
sort of
place.
dependent on the venue, isn't it?
Yes, but now that we're back at Blaisdell for a time, the lecture on the lanai is back on the lanai, the Ward Street lanai at the Blaisdell Concert Hall. But we'll find a place no matter where we are to do them. We did them in the one of the Hawaii suites at the Blaisdell when we were at the arena. Um, Yeah. So, and those are really informative. They're like 20, 30-minute lectures given by an expert. We've had Lynn Johnson did it for many years. Ruth Bingham has done them. They both have asked us to find younger replacements. So we're looking for people to take those over. But very informative. They talk about the story. They talk about the history, the composer. It's a really good setup to help you enjoy as an audience member, enjoy the opera more.
Absolutely. I speak of personal experience.
Yeah.
So the next item on my list of speed dating is sponsorship and volunteer opportunities. Can you
Yeah.
talk about that?
So yes, we have a lot of sponsorship opportunities, and for our operas, for education programs, we're also in the early stages of a capital campaign on refurbishments to Studio 101, but also our entire building. So there's naming opportunities there. Your name goes here, but a great company, opera is an expensive art form, and so it needs a lot of support. And so we make sure our donors are loved and respected and acknowledged. So there's a lot of ways to get involved with us, from small gifts to very large gifts, and we'll make sure you get um, have a good time with that investment in this company, in this art form.
And how about for the dyed-in-the-wool opera devotees who would like to volunteer? There are opportunities for them.
We have a lot of volunteers around Opera Ball. That takes a huge village to put that on. Also, we can always use extra hand in the office for doing envelope stuffing for mailings, or filing or organizing our music library. There's a lot of different ways to get involved. We also have volunteers that work at, which I know is one of your next ones, but Act Two, our resale shop. But we are always looking for good volunteers that want to help opera.
Yeah, people should volunteer. If they're not able to write a check for $100,000, at least they can put a few hours in and have the gratification of supporting you.
It every bit as valuable as cash gifts, because it just helps us do our job better.
But yeah, let's talk about the in-house resale shop. What is that about? What are you reselling?
This was the brainchild some years ago of Joyce Tominari. Those in the community will know her, and her husband Al Tominari, who was the general manager of Saks Fifth Ave. No, Neiman Marcus. Sorry, she would kill me if I said the wrong name. Neiman Marcus, and so she has such an expert eye with fashion and a knowledge of the retail industry, that she wanted to help the company in a way that she could. And so she has a lot of connections through Neiman Marcus and other high end, and also individuals that have really wonderful garments that they're willing to donate. So everything that we sell is donated 100%. They're all new or lightly used. Not I'm not dishing goodwill, but it's not goodwill. These are high-end fashion items. We have men's and women's apparel, plus jewelry and handbags and a lot of other things. It's called Act Two, and it's open in our building every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Last year, it brought in over $100,000 in sales that went 100% to supporting our programming, because everybody that works in Act Two is volunteer.
What about stage props and costume elements? For example, I would pay a lot for Scarpio's wig. Uh,
It's funny you should mention that, because we are looking at the idea of doing a costume shop sale in the fall, and so I will let you know when we schedule that date, because we have a lot of costumes from past productions that we're probably not going to do again, and so it's a great opportunity to wear Salome's gown and thing that she tears off, the Seven Veils gown, or if you've got the body to show it off, we have a lot of quite revealing costumes from pearl fishers.
uh, Andrew, these things, they instill in me a sense of joy that we have the opera, and also a sense that the opera is part and parcel of our community, the culture of Hawaii, the center in many ways of the arts community here, because it's multi arts, it's multimedia, and it's so alive and healthy and directed at the future. And I want to thank you for being there. You're a great general director, and you're really taking it to the best place it can go, even in these troubled times. And as I said before, we need to support the arts in the community. A great state deserves great arts, and vice versa. And that includes, of course, the Hawaii Opera Theater. We're almost out of time. Andrew, can you give us your thoughts? What are your thoughts that you would leave with our viewing audience about the role of the opera in Hawaii?
I'm going to back up just a little bit to talk about the arts, because I think the arts are not just a good thing to have, they're an integral part of our community. The arts make a community, and it comes in varying different forms. Opera, for me, is the pinnacle of the arts because it involves all of the elements of the arts: scenic design, costuming, wigs, makeup, singing, orchestra, drama, sets, props, costumes, all those things. It is theater running at 120 miles an hour. It tells stories in a way that no other art form can, without amplified voice, except when we're at the Waikiki Shell. With the power of the human voice to speak to us, to help us feel things. There's a catharsis that is the original start of drama with the Greeks, and opera was created to try to recreate those cathartic moments that the Greek drama was said to have. And there's nothing like the human voice, I think. To me, it is us. It is our core. Opera is singing without a net. And I think it's powerful. It's just powerful being in that space with 1,000 or 500 or 2,000 people witnessing the same thing all together with the power of the human voice, the power of that orchestra coming at you. And you're coming from all different walks of life, and yet you're seeing the same thing, interpreting it in different ways, viewing it through different lenses, but enjoying it nonetheless. Opera has no political boundaries, no political mandate, no race, color, creed. It is for everyone. And that's my goal, is that opera is for everyone. You may not like every single opera, but there is one in there that you're going to love, and that's going to hook you, and you're never going to look back.
I feel it. Andrew, I'm so glad I asked you that question. As a matter of fact, I'm so glad I asked you all of those questions. Anyway, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much to our special guest, Andrew Morgan, General Director of the Hawaii Opera Theater. I'm Jay Fidell, host of Community Matters, and we've been discussing lots going on at Hawaii Opera Theater. Thanks to our viewers for watching. We'll see you again soon for the next one. Aloha. Aloha, Andrew.
Aloha, Jay.